I mean, why read 50 new books when you can read 10 you've already read before? Hi, welcome, come on in. My name is Aoife, and today I am going to talk to you about some books that I have already read, already loved, and want to reread again. Some of them, it's because I haven't read them in such a long time and I've already forgotten them. Some of them because I would like a little bit of a refresh so that I can go and read further on in the series. So the first book on the list is one that I have mentioned time and time and time again, and it is Candy by Kevin Brooks. It was one of my favorite books when I was growing up. It was one of my favorite books as a teenager, but I haven't read it in about 10 or 15 years by now. And it's definitely time for me to reread it because it's been so long that I genuinely forget the little minutiae details about it. Some things that would escape me in it that would be like reading it for the first time, and I want to see if it's a book that I still love so much, like 10 or 15 years later than I first read it. So the next book on my reread pile is Gonger by Jillian Flynn. It's one that I read when it first came out in like 2011, 2012, and there was so much hype about it, and I think maybe I bought into the hype a little bit too much, but I don't actually remember quite a lot of the book. I do remember like a lot of the stuff that is covered in the film because I've seen the film quite recently, and I want to go back and read the book again so that I can pick out this part was in it, this part wasn't in it, this part is completely new, this part is something that I don't remember having happened at all. I would really like to go back and reread it and see, do I still have the opinion that Amy Dunn is a complete sociopath, or if I can kind of sympathize with her a little bit, even though I don't really know if it's easy to sympathize with her. So the next book on my ReRead TBR is one that's kind of a little bit special in that I'm not probably going to reread it in English, and that is Matilda by Roald Dahl. I mean, I am probably going to reread it in English at some stage because it's one of my childhood absolute favorites. But I picked up a copy of it in German on a recent trip to Cologne, and I have a feeling that this is going to be a really good way for me to build up my German reading skills. I currently sit at like a B1, B2 German level, and I know that if you want to start reading books in German and reading books in a second language, a really good way to start is like a childhood book or a book that you already know the story really, really well. That way you're focusing a lot more on the grammar, you're focusing a lot more on how to use the language, you're focusing on sentence structure, that kind of thing, rather than trying to take in the plot and what's happening. Because I know the plot of Matilda like I know the back of my hand, this is a definite good one for me to read in German. So a book that I'm definitely going to reread in English is The Single Girl's To-Do List by Lindsay Kelk. It has been so long since I have read it that I genuinely don't remember what happens. I don't even remember the main character's name. I think it's Rachel. But she splits up with her boyfriend, as far as I know, and then her friends come together and like make like a list of things that she should do now that she's single. Like, I don't know, travel the world probably is on it, and I'm actually really excited to see what's on the list because I read it first in like 2015, I think, and that's 5 years ago. I don't remember anything that happens in that. But what I do know is that a lot of characters in Lindsay's books actually appear again in future books. So for example, some characters can appear in her recent book. In case you missed it, there was a character who was an agent in the About a Girl series who appeared there. I want to see what kind of people that I can recognize from other books by Lindsay that are appearing in this. So yet another German reread is To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. This is one of my favorite trilogies. It's one of my favorite YA trilogies. It's one of my favorite contemporaries. And I have read it in English already 3 times. And I have seen the movies twice each. So I feel like this is probably going to be another really good contender for reading a book in German just because I know the story quite well. I feel like because it's a YA book, it's going to be kind of easy language that I can kind of pick up, but also it's not going to be super long, it's not going to be super taxing, and I'm probably going to pick up on the story a lot more knowing that all I need to do is focus on the grammar. I only read this book last year, but it was one of my favorite books of the entire year. And I know that I need to reread it again because every time I see somebody talking about it and saying that they're reading it for the first time, I get this little pang of jealousy that they're reading it or reading it for the first time. So I am absolutely going to go out of my way next year, 21, and pick up The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. As I've said, I read it already really recently, so I kind of know quite a lot of the stuff, but I know that there is something really, really important to the story that I did not pick up on at all kind of in the last third of the book. And I want to go back knowing that I've already read this book. I already know the story. I know the characters. I know the situations. I want to go back to it and see, can I actually pick up on it this time? Now that I kind of know it's coming, can I see the signs that are there? So a non-fiction book that I want to reread is Parsnips Buttered by Joe Lycett. I remember reading this pretty soon after it first came out. I think it was in like 2016 or 17 or so. I read it as an ebook. I still have it on my Kindle, and I absolutely flew through it. And it was so funny. It was just Joe's signature comedy all in a book. It's got like all of the emails that he would send, like all of those Blackguardy emails that he sent around to like tax companies or city councils or whatever. And it also has like little how-to steps on how to make your own. I love Joe's comedy. I absolutely love Joe Lycett's Got Your Back. I have both of his comedy specials, which have the funniest names ever. There's That's the Way Aha Aha Joe Lycett, and I'm About to Lose Control and I Think Joe Lycett. I actually went to see I'm About to Lose Control and I Think Joe Lycett in Edinburgh in 2017, 2018, 2017, and it was hilarious. It actually blew me away. So knowing how much I love Joe's comedy, knowing how much I loved the book the first time, I am so excited to read that one again. So another non-fiction reread is Reasons to Stay Alive by Matt Hague. I have reread already Notes from a Nervous Planet, and I absolutely loved it. I think it's a really great way of making your way through the world when we're so obsessed on technology and so obsessed on like keeping communication with people at all times throughout the day. And as somebody who has had struggles with depression before, having Reasons to Stay Alive on my shelf was an absolute godsend, and it was a life changer. But I haven't read it in a really, really long time, and I think I'm getting that kind of a way that I need to reread it again, and I need to kind of rediscover the joys of life. And so the final book that I want to reread is the first in a series, and it is When Dimple Met Rishi by Sandhya Menon. I know that it's not completely connected to them, but I have got the other two books in that series on my shelves, and I want to get those read, but I do think that I want to reread When Dimple Met Rishi first before I can. I've got two ways that I can do that, in that I have it on my Kindle, but I also know that the audiobook of When Dimple Met Rishi is on Spotify. So I could kind of listen to it while I'm at work, or I could just read it in my own time. All I know is that I want to get rereading it again. So those are all of the books that I want to read for at least the second time, some of them a little bit more. What books are on your ReRead TBR? Don't forget to like and subscribe because I have new videos up every week. Now get on out of here.